Welcome back, everybody. So, moving forward, this next slide is titled Narrative Styles. Make sure everybody's in this right spot. So now, when we talk about these myths, these stories, poems, plays, songs from the oral tradition, we can classify them into some basic groupings. So we'll go through and identify, and then we'll talk about these different narrative styles. The first is myth. The second is sacred history. The third is parable. The fourth, poetry. And then the fifth is wisdom literature. And we'll go through, dive deeper into each one in subsequent slides. So what is myth? A myth is a story that lies beyond proof, helping to explain something that is unexplainable. So now, you'll notice that this definition kind of fits into with that earlier one we looked at, but it's a little bit deeper. It's a story that lies beyond proof. And this is what, just one of the many things I love about myth, is that myth lies beyond proof. So what do we mean by beyond proof? What do we mean? What could that mean? Okay, if we think about it, in order to prove something, right, in order to truly prove it or disprove it, we have to use certain methods, right? What would be some of these different methods? Okay, yeah, like in science and math class, right? A proof for an equation, or the proof at the end of an experiment, good, using the scientific method or all those different ways we calculate in math. How about would be other ways that we determine proof? Yeah, we'd have to do things like find eyewitnesses, right? Or to create an actual account of something, writing something down as it was happening. Exactly. But remember, we're in the oral tradition. This is way, way back in the day. So in order to prove or disprove the content in myths, we would have to build a time machine. But guess what? We don't have a time machine. So therefore, these things lie beyond proof. We cannot prove them, nor can we disprove them. And this is what I think is just so, and then people kind of go, what? Yeah, exactly right. We cannot disprove the content in these myths, nor can we prove them. So therefore, it is what we call lying beyond proof. So then, once you know this is the part of religion which ties into faith. Your faith is either strong enough to where you accept, believe, and live these myths as part of the fabric of your nature from what you've been taught, or you don't, and you become a person not of faith. And, that's up to you. It is. It's up to you. Now, the second part, helping to explain something that is unexplainable. Now, today in the 21st century, what do we do to explain things? Yeah, we have science, and we have technology. Now, people way back in our pre-modern past, when the oral tradition was going on, they didn't have science. Technologies were really, really limited. So when they encountered something that was unexplainable, they made up a story. So this is an example. Now, you might have noticed, and again, this is an example, you might have noticed that in the spring in the South, here in America, dogwood trees bloom, right? It's really, really pretty. And there's a story, there's a myth associated with the dogwood tree. And you might know this or you might not. And if you don't know this, you can go ahead and pause the video real quick and find, maybe your parent or grandparent to see if they know the story of the dogwood tree. And then we'll pick back up. And if not, that's okay. We'll zoom right ahead next into it. So go ahead and pause, or don't. Okay, so what's the story of the dogwood tree? Well, once upon a time. Now you'll notice it begins once upon a time. Why does it begin once upon a time? Because it's a myth. It's an old story. Dogwood trees were the straightest, strongest growing trees on the earth. And what the dogwood trees were used by the Romans for crucifixion. And so they would chop down the dogwood trees and, fashion it into the two pieces of wood that were then put into the cross, and they would crucify people on them. And this is what they used to crucify Jesus of Nazareth. And because of this, God cursed the dogwood tree. And this is why the dogwood tree today no longer grows straight. It always grows at really funny angles. Its wood is very weak. Dogwood trees die very easily. And in addition, God, in commemoration for the death of Jesus, had the dogwood tree bloom at Easter. Have you ever noticed that? Spring, right? The major holiday festival of spring is Easter. Now, when the dogwood trees open, if you go up and look at the petals of the blossom, it looks like they've been touched just at the end with a drop of blood. And that's what God did to commemorate the death of his son Jesus of Nazareth. So that is the story, that's the myth of the dogwood tree. Now, is that story true or false? Guess what? It lies beyond proof, right? But what does it do? It helps us to explain something that's unexplainable. What's unexplainable? Why do dogwood trees always seem to blossom around Easter? Why do they grow all craggy and crooked? Why is their wood really weak and brittle? Why does it look like the petals have been touched with a drop of blood? Right? So all of those things are unexplainable. So what does that story do? It answers and explains those things that are unexplainable. So hopefully, once you learn to look at myth in this way, it just opens up. And then what happens with your day-to-day life, it becomes not just a series of events that seem to be unconnected with each other, but it becomes something that's very rich. You're connected to the oral tradition, things that happened thousands of years ago. You're connected to today. Your faith becomes deeper and stronger as you become more aware of the layers in human history that you can become in touch with through these myths. So wow, we only made it through one thing on this slide. So as we pick back up in the next lecture, we'll continue to learn about these narrative styles.